Welcome to the Closeness podcast, your new sexual education. My name is Tari, I'm your host, and today we're going to look at why being busy and being late makes you extremely sexually undesirable. We're going to explore two questions. Why is it detrimental to your dating health to constantly be unavailable and busy to everyone who wants to hang out with you, especially those who you are also interested in? And number two, why is it dangerous to fill your life with so many activities, so many brunches, so many meetings that you literally have no time to breathe and no time to spend with your husband, boyfriend, or potential partner? In today's day and age, there's a lot of vocabulary that we use as a knee-jerk response. We don't give much thought to it. It's unconscious. We simply spit it out and expect others to deal. One of those key phrases is, "I'm busy," and all of its variants. So when you're thinking about spending time with someone who you like and who you're attracted to, what kind of message do you think you convey when someone asks you out and your response is, exclusively, "I'm busy"? Or some marginally kinder version of this, which may sound like, "Oh, I'm busy right now. I can't that day. My mother's in town. I have a meeting all day. It's a crazy week. It's a crazy month. It's a crazy year." And now pretend that you want to spend time with someone who you're very attracted to. Again, this could be your husband or wife or someone who you're interested in. And you get up the courage to ask them out, or you plan something special and they simply hit you with busy. Maybe you send a text because you're too nervous to do it over the phone or in person, and they say, "Can't, sorry, busy." It's pretty hard to even use the expression without sounding a little bit snippy or snappy. Snappy. Now, whenever we deal with subject matter like this on the podcast, we are never talking about someone you're not attracted to, not interested in, or don't want to spend time with. It's not someone who you're fending off with an excuse, or you feel bad about rejecting them, so you just say that you're busy. We're always going to be referring to someone who you're interested in, whether, again, this is dating or an intimate relationship that you've had for many years. We're also not talking about one-off times where you've told your partner once in a year that you're busy. That's all right. But when you tell someone else, "I'm busy," and you don't say anything else, you're actually shutting down communication. You're closing the door to any possibility of future discussion, and you begin to turn that person into a bit of either a beggar, because they continue to ask you new questions such as, "Well, what about now? What about now? How about this day?" Or they become a little more passive because they feel so shut down. You also wind up sounding a little self-important or self-aggrandizing, as though anything that you may have going on is far more important than any invitation you might receive. And I think one of the sad things about this expression is it's the default way that most people respond to invitations. There's no follow-up. In fact, it's not followed up with anything. It's just a blanket statement. "I'm busy," period. When you ask someone a question and then it goes absolutely nowhere, or you invite someone out and then they say they're busy, what's the natural response, and what does the person receiving that response say back to you? In other words, it shuts communication down and there's usually no alternative statement. When you tell someone that you care about that you're busy, it forces them to have to come up with something else to say, or else they have to go silent, like, "Okay, sorry for bothering you," or it's up to them to suggest alternative dates. "Well, what about Tuesday? What about Wednesday?" This in turn, especially if this is a man seeking to go out with a woman, is going to make him sound very needy and desperate whether he likes it or not. And that's because the person on the other end is simply replying with their status or a statement. "Nope, can't, busy, have a meeting, someone visiting." So what can we do about this? How can you make it sound significantly better and move things towards a better outcome? "I can't today. I'm really busy, but I'd love to see you tomorrow. I'm super busy today, but let's make a plan right now for next week. The next time I free up is Tuesday night. Are you available then? Hey, I've got my calendar out right now. I can't do it today, but when's a good time for us next time? I'm sorry this day's so hectic. I promise I'll call you back tomorrow. I can't right now, but I can get together this weekend. I'm free at 2. But simply rattling off that you're busy or you've been busy shuts the entire thing down and creates a shift in power. Additionally, some people take the busy excuse even further and use being busy as the reason why they haven't gotten back to you, and sometimes send you a text only to tell you this. You might receive this response from your wife. You might receive it on a dating profile, and it looks something like this. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I've been away from my phone all day. Uh-huh. So sorry I haven't gotten back to you. I've been really busy. Followed by a beautiful round of deafening silence. Now, for those listening, especially ladies, I would love for you to ask yourself, if you've been dying to spend time with a guy or girl, and you reach out and 2 days or 4 days or a week later they say, hey, so nice to hear from you. So sorry I haven't gotten back to you. I've just been so busy. Would you feel rejected? Of course you would. Everyone does. But how do you respond when someone tells you how busy they are? Are you kind and sweet and sensitive and understanding because, you never know what situation someone might be in? This is usually where we wind up compromising our boundaries. Hey, that's okay. I understand. We all get busy, babe. I totally get it. But then what do you have to do next? You have to ask that person out again, or the line goes slack. And often you may find that you have to do it again and again and again to finally get a yes. Someone has to do something to move the conversation forward. And people who insist that they're very busy, whether they're scrolling Instagram, getting a manicure, having lunch somewhere, or simply running around taking care of themselves, that their busyness is more important than spending quality time with another human being. And for most people, their busyness is often frivolous. I'm not here to judge you or tell you what's good and bad or what you should or shouldn't do, but oftentimes what people have going on is not important and not urgent. Not even all that important to the person committing the late and busy crime. Not even important in the grand scheme of things, but you have someone who wants to connect with you and you're prioritizing other things. We all know deep down that no one on a daily basis is authentically busy from the moment they get up in the morning until they go to bed at night. We all have breaks, moments, a tiny bit of downtime. I understand there are a tiny, tiny handful of you who may be the one rare exception to the rule where from 5 a.m. to midnight, you're not near your phone, it's locked away in a box and you don't touch it. But come on, that's not most of us. What it comes down to is simply common courtesy, care, respect for your partner, consideration of others, the very minimum you can do when you're communicating with another person. Now, at this point, we all know the truth about our devices, our mobile phones. If it's not in our pocket, it's on our desk. If it's not on our desk, it's on a stand. Or we have an Apple Watch, an iPad, a television screen, a speaker, a smart device, something that's going to let us know that someone wants to get a hold of us. It's silly to pretend otherwise. Frankly, to me and most of us listening, telling someone that you're busy sounds about as legitimate as saying the dog ate your homework. And we all know that if we do set our phone down for a moment or leave it in the other room or an hour or two went by during the movie, the first thing we do is check our notifications, who texted us, who's writing us. I understand there are a tiny handful of people who are off the grid or do not respond this way, but for the vast majority in our fast-paced lives, this is how it goes. So what does this all translate to? It means that everyone knows that our message was received and seen, unless it doesn't say delivered, or you're dealing with someone who uses an Android. Just kidding. We know that that person has seen our message. Now, how long does it take to bat out a reply? 10 seconds? A voice note, 3 to 5 seconds? Hey, I just saw this. I'm going to call you back in an hour. Hey, I just got back to my phone. I can't right now, but let me get back to you tonight. And if we're really authentic with ourselves, we know that we're never too busy to give a genuine short reply. Sometimes I'll have clients come in and they're fighting over the fact that she had time to live stream, he had time to make an Instagram post, but somehow the partner didn't have time to get back to their wife or their husband about something important or about a question they had. So a more conscious question might be, when are we going to stop pretending that we're busy instead of being truthful with ourselves that we prioritize frivolous things over our partner, or that we found other things more interesting than responding, or that we're lazy, or that we chose just not to prioritize that person. And when this person is your husband or wife, and they're really trying to make something happen with you, enough rejection, and I don't mean hundreds, I don't even mean dozens, I mean a few times, will usually leave your partner feeling shut down and uninterested in pursuing you further. Now, for some of you who are active on social media, and you spend your time in traffic or at stoplights or, on a break at work, scrolling Instagram and Facebook, typing to different people on Snapchat, watching stories, are these times when you're too busy? By the same token, when are you allowed to be busy? You're obviously allowed to be busy whenever you'd like, but at least make it meaningful. When is it a good time to be busy? When you're with someone you love, a family member, you're in nature, you're spending time by yourself, you're walking your dog, or you're spending time with a pet, you're consoling someone, you're doing something super important that's valuable to you, even work. You're allowed to be busy whenever you want, but the expression of it to someone you care about, if it doesn't contain an alternative and it doesn't contain a suggestion, or it doesn't push the ball back into their court by offering a solution where you can get together, it's always going to feel like rejection. You know, in all of this, we've just lost our way a little bit. We've all convinced ourselves that it's unattractive to not be busy. We think it's not sexy or undesirable if we have nothing going on. What are you doing? Not much. What do you got going on this weekend? Nothing really. What are you up to tonight? I'm sitting around at home. Everyone thinks that saying that makes them feel, say it out loud, like a loser, or that it's undesirable to simply have some downtime. Whereas someone who wants to spend time with you should find that very attractive because it means you're actually available. It means there's possibility, there's an opening. What is it inside of us that makes us feel compelled to fill every moment of our time with something? Is it that we are afraid to be alone? Is it that we're scared of ourselves? Is it that we don't know how to handle ourselves if we just sit quietly? Do you have space to spend time with someone who you care about or like in between all of your Instagram stories and posts that make it seem like you're on yachts and tropic spots? Time alone and downtime is very essential. But what does it look like to interact with someone who is busy all the time? People who are busy all the time are also late, very late, all of the time. They keep people waiting for them, no matter what they're doing, because they can't keep their day or their schedule organized enough to be punctual. They fill their schedule so much that they're so overbooked and double booked that they have time for little else. These are also the kinds of people who, when creating their schedule, will book something from 2 to 3 and 3 to 4, 4 to 5, and 5 to 6, forgetting that it takes time to drive somewhere, to park somewhere, that unexpected things happen and traffic happens and red lights happen, and sometimes the person you're seeing before you is running late or your doctor's appointment is running late. How many times have you gone in somewhere for an appointment and they're 30 minutes or 60 minutes behind and you've got nothing to do but just sit there? But when you're late and your friend is sitting there waiting for you, they have to constantly choose in that moment, do I want to start a fight and be irritated, which I'm in my right to do? Or do I want to breathe, let it go, and kind of be treated like a doormat, as though my time isn't valuable? Now, if your friend who's waiting for you is angry, upset, or hurt because you're 30 minutes late, now it's going to seem like it's their problem because they're the one who's upset with you, especially when you interpret emotion, negative emotion from another person, as the problem instead of what actually happened, which is you making them wait an additional 30 minutes. You know, busy person, it's almost as though you make it the person's fault who had to wait for you. It's their fault for getting upset. It's their fault for being stressed out and not being understanding. You just showed up. Oh, so sorry. I've been so busy. I really was so busy earlier today and now I'm late. Sorry about that. And you want your friend to just say no problem, no matter what time you show up. I think so many of us forget that the person on the other end left work early, also got ready to see you, also sat in traffic, also did all number of things in order to make meeting you on time without being too busy. If you've ever made someone wait 20, 30, 40 minutes for you, and the reason behind it was truly your fault, your partner or your friend being angry, upset, or hurt with you is very valid. And when you tell someone the morning of or the evening of that you're not going to make it when you've had plans for 5 days, it's a pretty awful thing to do to someone. And even worse, sometimes men will show up to the date, sit there, wait for 10, 20 minutes, text the person who they're waiting for, and it's only then, when the person waiting has reached out, that they say, oh, sorry, yeah, I had this other thing come up, or I've been really busy, or I'm running late. So let me be abundantly clear for those of you who don't know. When you have plans to go out with someone and you don't cancel 2 days in advance, 1 day in advance, 12 hours in advance, so that the person who's waiting on you could do something else with their day or evening or salvage it. But when you don't even reach out or contact them and you think it's somehow enough to say, oh, I didn't feel like it, or wasn't in the mood, or wasn't feeling the vibe, or my mind changed, whatever the case, it's extremely rude, disrespectful, and inconsiderate. It's low class, it's uncouth, and nobody likes it. But more to the point, people will also lose respect, care, and consideration for you when you do it. Think about any time you've ever had to show up for, a job or a doctor's appointment or a dentist appointment. What happens if you show up 10, 15, 20 minutes late? More often than not, they can't see you, or they put someone else ahead of you, or you get discarded, or you get charged an enormous late fee, or a cancellation fee, or a no-show fee. In all other areas of life, when you aren't accountable and responsible, there's a consequence, and you get billed for it. But in a dating situation or in a relationship situation, we expect our partners to deal, to just be fine. And again, if you're someone who's super accountable and once every blue moon, you're running a little late or you can't make something, this is obviously not intended for you. But there are people who fly by the seat of their pants, and this is their sort of MO for interactions with people outside of a professional setting. This gets even more tricky in dating situations because you don't have as much leeway to sort of text and reach out. It feels inappropriate or needy to say to someone, okay, so we're going to see each other Thursday. Hey, just checking to make sure Thursday we're on. Okay, looking forward to seeing you later today. It kind of has a little bit of a unpleasant feeling when you just try to confirm. So what winds up happening is you maybe confirmed once a week ago, and then you get yourself ready, you take a shower, you put on a great outfit, you drive somewhere, you spend gas, time, money, energy, you show up and the person isn't even there, or they're super late. It's just a nightmare. And I can tell you right now, if you've ever been on a date and you're a few minutes late and they're still not there, and then you message them in 15 minutes to see what's going on, and they say they're going to be another 20 minutes, whoever you are, I would strongly recommend you just get up and leave, or letting them know, say, hey, I've got better things to do with my time than wait around for you, and move on. If you're in a relationship, it gets a little more tricky. But I think simply taking a moment to think about how you would feel if it happened to you gives you enough guidance for what to do if you're in that situation. If you value your time, one way to play this is if you notice that someone's going to be excessively late is to simply not be there when they arrive. You're somewhere else. You're shopping, you went to grab a drink somewhere, grab a coffee for a walk, or you just left. So that when your partner or your date finally arrives, and with all the entitlement in the world, they're like, hey, I'm here. Where are you? I don't see you. And they're waiting for, all of 10 seconds before they're up in arms. You're just not there. Or you're doing something else, or you'll be back in 10 or 15 minutes because you had something else to take care of. I'm not at all into game playing, but I very much am into enforcing boundaries. And sometimes simply speaking your boundary, in fact, rarely does speaking your boundary work. You often need to show your partner. I think most of us would love to avoid being in situations like this on either side. So what are the telltale signs that you're involved with someone who's too busy? Magically, they're always lost in traffic. Traffic always seems to be horrible for them. But let me reveal the secret of what's really going on behind the scenes. They don't value your time. They were scrolling on Instagram. They knew that it took 15 minutes to get there and they should leave 15 minutes early, but instead waited an additional 5, 10, or 15 to futz with their hair or their outfit or talk to someone or text or finish a phone call that they thought was important or get an errand done that needed to get done. And probably never factored in that it would take time to park, time to meet you, time to walk over, time to check their hair, one more time in the mirror, time to self-criticize. I always say, if you can be chronically late, you can be chronically on time, because inevitably you're leaving at a very particular time that's always 5, 10, or 20 minutes later than you normally need to. Just push that back 20 minutes and the entire problem's solved. Usually people like this, when they arrive to meet you, they're frazzled, they're tense, they're wound up, they're not present, which is another disadvantage of spending time with someone like this, because even though they're late, they've been stressing out in the car usually or going from place to place. And so finding a way for you to get present and just connect for a minute instead of mindless chatter is also really hard. Often these people will cram so much into their day that they have their eye on their phone even now when they're with you because they need to get to something else or go to another appointment or be mindful of someone else who might text or call. There's a very temporary feeling that these people give you, that they don't want to spend time with you or that they are just a fair-weathered friend or always need to come and go. So let's say you sit down with this person and you try to enjoy a quality interaction, or you ask them questions, or you're being super friendly and considerate. You'll usually find that it's all about them. A lot of uh-huhs, a lot of distracted eye movements and eyes darting around because they are not actually present. They'll likely also be looking off into the distance, just sort of getting lost in their own thoughts because they can't slow their mind down. The funny, or rather interesting thing about busy people, however, is that somehow they always find time for a post of their coffee, or checking social media, or texting someone, or shopping for something online. Often these are the kind of people who always need to be in flow and love their life and don't have time to have their phone on them all the time because they're just trying to flow and the universe is manifesting things for them at the expense of others. And so another way to think of all this is to imagine that you're much, much older. You're in your 80s or 90s and you're reflecting back over your life. Do you want to reflect back and say to yourself, I'm so glad I jam-packed every minute of every day with something where I was running from one place to the next, too busy for anyone, always on the go, and I can't remember any of it. It's a blur. Have you ever gone to see two movies back to back? You go see one and then you walk out and another one's starting. And then when you're done with that one, you can barely even remember what the first one was about. A lot of people live life like this. And now you can't remember any of it. Some people will spend so much time watching other people on social media living out their lives, all of which they're cherry picking to make look like it's their best life. Would you rather live like that, or would you rather reflect back and know that you spent several hours a day deeply connecting with another human who loves you, whether it's a pet, a person, your kids, your family, or everyone together? Do you want to remember how good it felt to look people in their eyes and to have really bonded and connected, to have left an impression with people who care about you? Do you love the idea of presence, remaining calm, feeling relaxed while you're driving and feeling relaxed when you're interacting with someone? Don't you want to feel seen and heard? Don't you want to feel like you gave someone your time, your love, and your energy, and they appreciated you for who you were? What is life like these days? Quick, snappy, knee-jerk responses, cutting or biting comments, enormous amounts of sarcasm, aggressive, reactionary responses, trying to always be right or never look bad or always insist that you're never wrong, telling others how they don't know you, they don't understand, or they just don't get it. Being difficult or combative, knowing that you're difficult and trying to get a reaction out of your partner because you know that they're not as worked up as you are. Behaving worse towards your partner than you ever would towards a perfect stranger, a boss, or a family member. Making little digs or insults or trying to point out how you are subtly better than they are. And all of these things keep us from the thing that we want most: closeness, caring, connection, intimacy, and someone who sees us for who we really are. The next time you speak, the next time you open your mouth or send a text, see if you can tune into the meaning or the feeling place behind your words, or how the other person might feel when they receive your commentary. And if you actually care about the person who you're speaking to, maybe you can find it within yourself to be a little more sincere, a little more kind, and more authentic. If you're actually taking the time to give someone a response, or tell them your physical location, or let them know how busy you are, you also have the time to send a courteous reply and say, "Hey, thanks for messaging," or "That sounds great," or "I really would love to, but here are some alternative times." No need to sugarcoat, no need to write long, drawn-out messages, because many of you, when you hear this, will say, "Well, I'm more of a blunt kind of person." But it's really about the tone and the kindness in the message that you're sending. And the easiest way to do that is to simply put yourself in your partner's shoes and imagine that they were doing this to you and how it would make you feel. And all you have to do is think about how you would reply if someone said to you, "I'm busy." Now, if you're a woman listening to this, you'll likely just hear that as a rejection, and you'll say to yourself, "Oh, I'll just leave it alone. I won't bother." But remember, this entire episode, in fact, this entire podcast, is about situations where both people actually are interested in one another. And if you're using the same kind of language with people who you're sexually romantically interested in as you do for people who you're not interested in, well, then something definitely needs to change. To sum it all up, a very simple takeaway for today is to simply say more, more, more than I'm busy, more than sorry I'm late, more than I'm running late. To not just state your physical location, I'm at work, I'm at Costco, I'm out of town, I'm with my dad, I'm in Vegas right now, can't get to my phone, I'm super busy. That you simply add on a sentence or few words that lets the person know what happens next. Just like a game of tennis, they hit the ball into your court and it's your turn to hit it back. But hitting it back is not saying I'm busy. That's catching the ball and walking away. So pick an alternative, pick a different date, demonstrate that you're interested. Say, I'm busy, but, and then fill in the blank. I can't make it today, but, and offer an alternative. It's so simple. You know, one of the number one ways that women feel sexual attraction is when they feel wanted by their partner. Ladies, if you're listening, give your partner the opportunity to want you, to try to pursue you and chase you. A lot of men these days, we know, we're not going to spend any time pursuing someone who's not interested in us, whether it's someone we just met or a girlfriend or a wife. If they're giving us signs of being disinterested, this does not make a man pursue further, or it doesn't make most men pursue further. And it's a talk for a different day, but you really got to think, how many times you thought to yourself, man, this guy won't take no for an answer? And then how many times have you also thought to yourself, man, I want this guy to fight for me? It's a paradox for a later episode that men have to constantly deal with. So, are people who are too busy or chronically late sexually unattractive? Hell yeah, they are. Significantly less attractive, significantly less desirable than someone who wants to be there, someone who's present, someone who can look you in the eyes, someone who arrives on time, someone who values your time. For those of you who have the luxury of being single and you find yourself in this type of situation, more than once, I would strongly recommend holding stronger boundaries, leaving, not talking to people like this again, and seeking out people who value your time. If you're in a relationship, it's far more difficult. You're not just going to leave because your partner was 20 minutes late on their date and you guys have kids at home. But I think playing them this episode, having a conversation, showing them how you feel, letting them know, and setting a boundary there as well can be really helpful to gaining a lot more closeness in your relationship. And I think that's a good place to bring this short episode to a close. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, there are countless others to listen to. A good deal of this podcast, of course, deals with sex and intimacy, but this is a really good precursor. It's hard to be sexually attracted to someone who's rejecting you. It's hard to feel desired by someone who's busy all the time. You can find the Closeness podcast everywhere podcasts can be found. And if you're in sunny San Diego and you want to come in for an in-person session with your partner or by yourself, feel free to fill out an intake form at cravecloseness.com/intake. Or simply check out my online calendar to schedule a phone session. Thanks for listening and have a great day.